Step this way. For 2 nickels, 1 dime, a 10th part of $1. We've got the show if you've got the dime. It's just starting.
Fantasy Football Funhouse, Football Funhouse, Football Funhouse.
Hello, Steve. Hi, Steve.
Hello.
Hey, baby. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Funhouse, episode 3, but episode 2 without Kevin. Steve, you look befuddled. What happened, buddy?
I am. Everything's okay now. Everything's okay. I was getting a little bit of feedback. I was hearing some things. I thought I was hearing voices. Everything is fine now. I'm back. Everything is good to go.
You know what's happening? It's the dead bodies that were in Kevin's basement are coming back to haunt us now. That
That's
Kevin
right.
has been. I guess we can let it out now that he's not here for the second show in a row. Kevin has been arrested.
Yeah, he is in police custody.
It's not even police custody. It's the federal. Federal custody, and
That's right.
and that's it. So going forward, it'll be just me and Steve doing the show because Kevin is a lowlife. So
We've been waiting for this to happen for a long time, and I'm not surprised it happened this way. I'm just I'm sad it took this long.
in 3 years, you would have thought it would have been me, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's always the New Yorker, but the bottom line is it's the Massachusetts guy.
That get caught.
Anyway, welcome to the Fantasy Football Funhouse. For those of you who are joining us on a Tuesday night, that's right. We are now coming to you twice a week, Tuesday and a Thursday. And Steve, I put out on Twitter, what a better way to lead up to the brand new episode of Hard Knocks tonight, which starts 1 hour from now. So for the next couple of weeks, you should come here, get your fantasy football news, information, updates, see these two cherubby-looking beautiful faces, and then watch some Hard Knocks. Steve, you excited to watch Hard Knocks tonight?
I am. There's a lot seems to be happening week to week with the Browns, and so yeah, this is going to be a fun season of Hard Knocks with them. I believe everyone is most looking forward to what happens with Corey Coleman. Everyone knows last week he was traded to the Buffalo Bills, so a lot of people are anxious to see that reaction. I also think a lot of people are looking forward to see how these coaches are meshing together because it's a lot of personalities in one room, and one of them is the leader of the personalities, but doesn't seem to be the least qualified of all of them, and seems to be the one that doesn't know what they're doing the most. So it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic, and I think a lot of people like seeing that play out.
Yeah, there was a blow up at practice yesterday between the D coordinator and the offensive coordinator. I don't know if you heard about that, but that'll probably be on next week's show because this week we'll bring you up to the Giants and Cleveland preseason game and the stuff that went on last week leading up to that game. So very exciting. We'll be tuning that at the bottom of the hour. So Fantasy Football Funhouse can be found on the original Falafel House feed, but also we are now a proud member of the Gridiron Experts family. So you could go to gridironexperts.com and you can find our podcast there. And you could also find out great articles from tons of great writers, people you know from all over fantasy Twitter. They work there at Gridiron Experts. They're all in Mike's living room. That's where they work each day. They come in, they go up to Canada, they write stuff, and it's pretty cool. So we're glad to be a part of that. And I want to tilt the camera down. I did this the other day. I was wearing.
Don't do it. No. Not that type of podcast.
No, I was wearing my Bull Rush T-shirt last episode, and now I'm wearing my. Do you see what that says, Steve?
4 for 4.
That's 4 for 4, and I got my 4 for 4 T-shirt for free from.
Oh, cool.
From Josh.
Just rub that
Moore.
in a little bit.
Yeah. Do you guys know Josh Moore?
Thanks, Josh.
Of 4 for 4. Now, Josh put a tweet out last week that if you were willing to wear the 4 for 4 T-shirt to your live draft, he'd send it to you. All you had to do is basically lie to him and say that you're going to wear it to a live draft. And but no, I will wear this. I have my old school live draft on August 25th, and I'm going to definitely wear it that day. So Josh may still be doing that. You can find him on Twitter at number 4 FOR 4 number 4 again _ Josh, and see if he's still doing that. And it said I got it within 2 days. But Steve, I noticed something. I'm a single guy now, and I got all these awesome new fantasy T-shirts. I'm pretty sure I'm doing single life wrong.
Yeah. 4 for 4. I'm sure that's going to pick up the ladies real quick at the bar. They're going to know exactly what that is.
I got the Dynasty Game Night T-shirt recently. I got the Bull Rush, the Fish Bowl, the fight. I got a shirt for 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. And I don't think that that's going to get me any dates. What do you think?
I don't know. Without going into too much detail, I'm going to say doesn't sound like it's hurting anything. Doesn't sound like it's hurting anything.
Well, let's just head on over to this right here. So again, we spoke about this last week, and I want to get this in today because today is August 14th, and you got to act on this right now. Have you been looking for affordable tools to give you an edge in DFS and betting? Well, look no further than thequantedge.com. They give you the tools you need to play like a pro. The ability to compare a wide receiver and a cornerback by route. The ability to see hotspots for a receiver and a defense. Understand what an offensive lineman's impact on a team is when he is off the field are all possible with just a click of a button thanks to the Quant Edge. TQE will provide you with never-before-seen tools such as the head-to-head tool, the wide receiver cornerback matchup tool, and the injury impact tool, along with a lineup optimizer that will let you create up to 150 lineups. You have all the info you could ever want at your fingertips in fun, easy-to-use tools. But that's not all, Steve.
There's more?
There's more. When you sign up for the quantedge.com, not only do you get access to all of these tools, you get exclusive content as well. 10 industry experts on staff. You get access to new articles daily, along with 6 exclusive podcasts for TQE members. We at the Fantasy Football Funhouse have a special deal for our loyal listeners. If you use promo code FFFunhouse, that's 3 F's and an unhouse, you get 20% off the season-long subscription. But you have to do it tonight, because this expires on August 15th. Okay, if you didn't tune in live tonight and you downloaded the podcast and it's Wednesday, August 15th, you have only a few hours left to get this done. You get access to the tools and content for the entire NFL season and the playoffs for only $79.99 if you do it now. So sign up today at thequantedge.com and use our promo code FFFunhouse so you could start playing like a pro. Steve, I want you to pause this. The people will wait. I want you to go sign up.
Okay.
Do it now. Go.
I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. So I've already taken advantage of such a deal. Don't you worry, Sal. But yeah.
Go ahead, buddy.
No, I was going to say, if you haven't gone over and checked that out, you are missing out on all the tools that this site is offering, and it is going to help make you money during the season. Guaranteed, you are going to have tools that not everybody's going to have access to, and those are going to give you the edge that you need to bring home the cash.
Yeah, don't download this on Thursday, right? Don't be that fool who downloaded this on Thursday and it's like, oh my God, I got to get that thing. It's gone. It's gone.
Hammering that voice home tonight.
It's all over Twitter. Use the code. All right, Steve. A lot of stuff going on after week.
Football is back on.
Football is back, and you don't want to get too overexcited or unexcited or crazy. You do.
Yeah,
you like that type of stuff. Yeah, because
it's been a long weekend. I've been excited all weekend.
You can't take too much away from week 1, except you can.
Yeah, I've had no problem with it.
Let's touch on some stuff that happened today. Big Ben Roethlisberger fell on his big fat head today at practice, and he's in concussion protocol. And in the past, it's a guy who Kevin once had ranked as his number 1 quarterback, right? And one of the reasons why that's always questionable is because he misses time. He seems to miss a game or 2 or 3 every season. So here we are heading into week 2. He's not going to play in the week 2 game. And I think that was a possibility he wasn't going to play in it anyway. But this concussion will slow him down and slow his progress. More than likely, he'll be good to go by the start of the season. But these are the type of things you get concerned about with Roethlisberger.
Yeah, it's definitely something you have to take into consideration. I do think he did a pretty good job last year. I don't think he misses as many games as he normally does. If he missed any at all during the fantasy season, it's escaping me right now. But right now he's being drafted as quarterback 12. Of course, I use my ADP from the aforementioned 4for4.com. That is the one that I look to the most. So yeah, right now he's going as the 12th quarterback off the board. And I think that's right about where you would take him. I don't think that's really too high. I don't think that's too low. I don't think that's drafting him at his ceiling. I think he's got a little room to beat to beat out that ADP there. So I think it's just something that you have learned to take with Ben Roethlisberger now. I think he's got the weapons that you don't have to worry about his downside as much, and other than him potentially missing a game or two. But taking him as the 12th quarterback off the board gives you plenty of time to build up the roster around him, and then also draft a second guy somewhere down the line that would be able to step in and fill in. With how deep the quarterback position seems to be this year, I don't think it's too much of a risk. I don't think I'm going to be avoiding him because of that issue.
Last year, all the talk was about the road home splits. Still buying into any of that crap?
Yeah, I haven't heard so much about that this year. It hasn't been blowing up Twitter. I think it's still something that people pay attention to, but it's not ever been something that I've avoided him for. I think the injuries and missing games has been more of an issue for me. But I think where he's being drafted, I don't think it's as much as a risk.
Here's another group of quarterbacks you may or may not have any desire to talk about. But beat reporter Chris Brown of the Buffalo Bills, he put out a tweet today that said, it looks like it's Peterman back with the ones. Allen is with the twos for the second straight day, and McCarron is with the threes today. Is there anyone in that offense, Steve, that you're even paying attention to when it comes to the quarterbacks? I'm not talking wide receivers who, regardless who ends up being a quarterback, they're going to be from behind and throwing the ball a lot. But, I mean, you can't draft a quarterback from this team, right?
No, I don't think so. I think last year Tyrod Taylor was the sleeper quarterback, the quarterback on Buffalo that everyone undervalued because he had the pedestrian passing numbers, but then he also had that rushing attack that definitely elevated him in the QB fantasy standings. You don't have that from any of the quarterbacks that are there right now. So Peterman is, right now looking at the quarterback one for that team, AJ McCarron behind him, Josh Allen behind him. From a redraft perspective, I'm not taking my chance on any one of these guys. You can get a Ben Roethlisberger, and even I'll take a Mitchell Trubisky over either one of these guys. That's how bad they are. I'll take him over them.
If you do not know Steve's dislike for Mitchell Trubisky, you don't really know how meaningful of a statement that was that he just made, because he doesn't care for the man.
I don't necessarily think he'll be a force in the fantasy quarterback world this year, but no, I think that's going a little too far. The Buffalo quarterbacks are definitely the bottom end of the barrel. If you're drafting them and needing to rely on them for your fantasy year, something went wrong somewhere else in your draft.
Slash Cohen can help Trubisky out. They got him listed. They're saying list him as a RB wide receiver slash. He's lining up all over the place. It does sound like he will be on the field with Jordan Howard this year. It does sound like Jordan Howard will get the full run in the backfield because Cohen will just be used everywhere. So I'm excited to see how that offense shakes out with or without Trubisky. Derek Carr in a real command of John Gruden's offense, vocal before the snap at the line of scrimmage, directing traffic to a degree he hasn't in the past. Do you think that the reason he's getting the offense so well is because it's a fifth grade offense that was run back in 1975? Do you think that, maybe Derek Carr steps back up into that quarterback one echelon this year?
Yeah, I definitely think it's possible. It's hard to call it a fifth grade defense, and then at the same time where you say it's offense, I'm sorry. At the same time, it's too easy for Derek Carr, but then on the other end, it's too hard for Martavis Bryant to be able to pick it up and be able to run a play on the offense.
He smokes a lot of pot, though.
So it's got to be somewhere in the middle, I guess. Derek Carr right now going as QB 20. I think that is too low for him. I think everyone that is off of him from last year, they don't seem to remember that he broke his back, and kind of torquing your back while you throw a football is kind of an important aspect of that. So I think that he was injured last year, and I think that's going to give a huge discount to him. We saw what Rich Gannon has done with his quarterbacks in the past. He brought guys like Rich Gannon and Brad Johnson. He made them viable, people on their offense. Those offenses never really lacked for scoring. So I think that he definitely has a chance to outperform where he's being drafted. He's somebody that you could pair with the Ben Roethlisberger, like we already talked about, and one of those guys each week should be able to give you some numbers. So I'm excited for Derek Carr, mostly because I traded for him in Pigs 2 last year from Kevin. I shipped him LaShawn McCoy, and he gave me Derek Carr back in return. So I'm hoping for a big comeback there.
Yeah, you robbed him in that deal. He's useless at this point. A couple other quarterbacks to touch on. Andy Reid announced that Patrick Mahomes and the first-team offense will play the entire first half against the Falcons in week 2 of the preseason. You don't typically see an entire half by the first team offense, but Mahomes is taking over this year. He only had the one start last year at the end of the season, and I think this is something very interesting to watch because you're going to get to see, first of all, Tyreek Hill looks great in practice. I don't know if you've been seeing the video that was coming out about him, but I mean, he's putting the moves on the DBs and he is getting open and he's making the catches and he just looks quick. And Sammy Watkins came out and said, I'm fast, but Tyreek Hill is like another level fast. So it's going to be interesting to see that offense together. He did go to Kelsey a lot in the first half of week 1 or in the first drive or 2 of week 1. That's an offense I think we want to see the dynamic of. So we're getting an early treat to that. I don't know if you're a big Mahomes guy or not, Steve.
I have been a little lower on Mahomes just because it seems like everybody's anointing him as, the next coming of fantasy quarterback without really seeing anything. He had that great game at the end of last year against Denver. And, that seems to be enough for people to assume that he's going to be able to consistently do that week in and week out. Now, he's not being drafted as a quarterback 1 right now, but this is definitely something that I want to see. I want to see him get a half in against all the starters. Hopefully the starters on the defense play a bigger chunk of time so we can see him against the ones of an opposing defense. But I think I want to see this. We saw that even with an Alex Smith type quarterback, meaning someone that doesn't necessarily take a ton of chances or anything. Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, those guys were all viable fantasy options last year. Now they add in a Sammy Watkins. So is Patrick Mahomes enough to bring another wide receiver into that to make all 4 of these guys fantasy viable and in turn make himself a really viable quarterback? So I'm excited to see it. I've been sluggish to boost him up in my rankings at all. I probably won't own much of him this year, but definitely would love to see what he's got to offer. And he's got the talent. I just want to see him do it on the field.
It's tough for me as a Raider fan to say I'm excited to watch that offense, but I am because I play fantasy. Oh, that's right. You're a Denver fan. That's true. But I think Mahomes is going to be one of those guys this year that's balls out, man. He's throwing balls down the field and he's going to make mistakes, but he's going to overcome it with amazing deep connections with his wide receivers. So it's going to be fun to watch.
I'll just say one thing that I've seen I know Mahomes is not a rookie quarterback, but he didn't play much last year. What I've seen from this first week of, all the rookie quarterbacks got in there. You had Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Josh Rosen, also not a rookie, but Chad Kelly, and then Pat Mahomes. All these guys, they seem like they are much less reserved than rookie quarterbacks have been coming out in the past. They seem like, I don't know if they necessarily have a longer leash and their coaches are telling them to take more chances, but it seems like they don't mind taking those chances and they're not afraid to wing the ball down the field. So that's been refreshing to see. And that's something that I look forward to with this next, crop of rookie quarterbacks that are coming in or second year quarterbacks. It seems like none of them are really afraid. So that's fun to watch. And that's fun to see from a fantasy standpoint.
Could you see me anymore, Steve, or did I disappear?
Yeah, I just see his blue face. It looks a lot better than you, but it's just a blue picture.
I don't know what happened. Somebody tried to call me on Google Hangouts while you were talking, and I had to decline. I had to decline the call, and I don't think you're going to see me the rest of the show because it appears as though that screwed this up. So enjoy that face you see of Steve Marcus for the rest of the episode. Speaking of rookie quarterbacks, the one who's been getting the most praise and got praise today from an opposing team's cornerback is Sam Darnold. I don't know if you saw what Josh Norman had to say about Sam Darnold today. Did you see that?
I did not see that.
They interviewed him after practice. The Jets are going to play the Redskins this week, and so they practice against each other this week, and they asked him his feelings, and he goes, I'm really impressed. I'm paraphrasing this. Usually you could rattle the rookie quarterbacks, and that's what I usually like to do, and I was not able to do it. He's making impressive throws. He's doing things that you don't expect from a rookie quarterback, and he said he's got what Carson Wentz has. He has what Dak Prescott has, and it was just an absolutely glowing response in Donald's favor, and I think that that's got to get people around fantasy football excited. It's got to get the Jet fans out there really excited. We saw him not against the ones, but still make throws on a run that were just impressive. He played impressively, and he's been doing it also in practice. Tweet out today from Eric Allen, a beat writer for the Jets, that said it was an impressive drive for Darnold. He had an outstanding day. Finishes a long march with a rope to tight end Clive Walford. Kid got most of his yards with passes to tight end. So listen, he's something the Jets have not had in the past, right? The use of the tight end. Safarian Jenkins a little bit last year, started the show. So that's something. They got the kid Herndon, who they're high on. Keep an eye on this. I think that you could definitely, get a surprise sleeper late with both of those guys.
Yeah, and I think what you said earlier about what Josh Norman had to say is, kind of piggybacking off what I was saying earlier, is that this crop of quarterbacks that have come out seem to be a little more polished than what we're used to seeing. And one thing I noticed from watching their time in the first week of preseason is their poise in the pocket. I saw it from specifically Darnold and Baker Mayfield. They're not afraid to step up in the pocket and to be surrounded by that pressure. And a lot of them, with Darnold, with his first touchdown throw of the preseason, he was able to step up in the pocket and then break out towards the right side of the field and make that throw. It was a really nice play, and that is something that I've definitely noticed. As far as the tight ends on the New York Jets, Clive Walford, if he's their number one, I'm going to go ahead and pass on that.
I think it's going to be the rookie, Herndon. Chris Herndon, is that his name? I've heard that they're very high on him. So,
all right.
Fair enough. Last quarterback we're going to talk here, and this is for Steve because he put this on the agenda tonight, and he has Chad Kelly is evidently the reincarnation of Tom Brady,
basically,
according to Steve. And while he did step up and look really good, and then get promoted to the number 2 QB in the offense over just a Christian Hackenberg like Paxton Lynch.
God.
I'm disappointed. I traded them away to you this year in the Falafel Assholes League. So, what are you thinking of Chad Kelly?
That's right. Well, that was one of the main reasons I put this down here, so we could tell everybody that we made an underdog trade this offseason, and it was for 2 guys that we are each pretty high on. I traded my Michael Roberts, Michael Roberts, tight end for the Detroit Lions. I traded to you for Chad Kelly and a little bit of cash, I believe I got on the side of that. So I think I swindled you in that one there as well. And yeah, he came out and absolutely looked better than Paxton Lynch. Now, of course, he was playing against the threes, against the Vikings. They were down big, so they had to throw the ball a lot. But it was obviously enough for the coaching staff to elevate him to the number 2 spot. He's going to get some time with the 2s going forward. And I think he's easily solidified himself as the number 2 behind Case Keenum if anything were to happen to him. Now, John Elway did say today that they will continue to look at this, and if they don't think he's the guy, they will absolutely bring somebody else in to be that number 2, that solid number 2 behind Case Keenum. But I think Chad Kelly is going to go ahead and earn that job. And if he keeps it, the next 2 years, then they might not have to sign somebody else after Case Keenum's gone. He might be that guy to step up there. I definitely am excited to see what he's got going forward for them.
Coincidentally, John Elway also said Paxton Lynch plays like a solid number 2. So that's a different number 2.
Actually, yeah, exactly. He meant a literal number 2.
Let's scoot on over to the running backs in Denver because I know you're excited about this. Royce Freeman, got the opportunity to play the other night, and he looked like he was the better of the 2 running backs. You listed him on the agenda as the GOAT, which again I know is tongue in cheek because you are a fan of the Broncos. But I saw today that Vance Joseph was evaluating Devontae Booker and Royce Freeman, and he quote said, "Book's book. He's doing what he does well. That's third downs, catching the ball." Outside zone is his best run. Royce is a downhill pounder, one-cut runner with pretty good vertical speed. We need both guys. So I think it's pretty clear that they're both going to play, and Booker will likely fall into that third down back, pass-catching back. But, what do you feel? Do you think that there's a chance Ronald Jones can take over as a 3-down back in that offense? Or you think this is a committee for the year, draft him accordingly, but not as a weekly number 1. Neither one will be a 1, but.
Well, I know you just said Ronald Jones, and I know how you hate that, so I'll go ahead
Royce
and correct
Freeman?
you. Yes, Royce Freeman.
I said Ronald Jones.
Freeman. I know. We're going to get to him. Don't get too excited.
It's in my agenda under the same thing. That's my fault. Go ahead.
That's right. So I think that Royce Freeman is showing that he is the first and second down back. And by those words that you just said from Vance Joseph, Devontae Booker is going to be the passing down back. But I also think that Royce Freeman has shown enough in not only the passing game, but also in pass protection that he can be in there for third down as well. So I think he's got a better chance of moving into Devontae Booker's role than vice versa, than Devontae Booker moving into Royce Freeman's role and taking carries out of him. So you've got Royce Freeman right now going into about the 5th round. I hope that he's going to stay there with the injury to Darius Geis. That's one more running back, with Sony Michel also having some injury concern. Those are 2 running backs that were being drafted ahead of Freeman that are going to be, obviously Geis is out of the picture. Sony Michel is going to be dropping down a little bit, and someone we're going to talk to here in a second is also ahead of him. So I think that his draft stock is about to shoot through the roof, and I think that he's going to land pretty solidly right there in the 4th round, and that's probably right around where he's going to end up. I think that's going to be a ceiling, but I think he's got a little bit more opportunity than Booker. He's got a bigger chance to secure a bigger role than Booker does, and so I definitely would be rolling the dice with him.
Yeah, and the reason I mistakenly said Ronald Jones is because I have it listed on the agenda. Ronald Jones is currently being drafted as running back number 23 overall off the board and 56 overall in the 5th round. And that's 2 running back spots ahead of Royce Freeman. And as we know, Dirk Cutter announced that Peyton Barber is the starter. And I've seen the beat writers report that he is leaps and bounds ahead of Ronald Jones at this point. So that's why I had him in there, and I think that it's the value is just insane that those 2 guys are nowhere near each other at this point. Peyton Barber, by the way, and I'm sure this is going to change with the words that came out, but right now, RB 57, overall pick 173. He's going in the 15th round of 12-team drafts. That's insane. It's a starting running back.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have much more to add than that. He's the starting running back. I don't know. I don't understand the huge split there. Everybody just wants Ronald Jones to be the guy there, and so they're blindly drafting him at that draft position. I'm probably not touching either one of these guys unless you get Peyton Barber, somewhere back towards the end of the round. Like you said, with what came out today, I cannot imagine that ADP is going to stand. He's probably going to skyrocket up the draft board. But as it is right now, I would not touch Ronald Jones, especially with a guy behind him like Royce Freeman. There's no way I'm drafting him right there where he is. He's got to be a leading candidate to underperform his ADP by a vast margin.
So normally Kevin does these agendas, Kevin, he's Mr. Businessman. Kevin does the agendas. So Steve got a hold of the agenda today, and Steve wrote some pretty interesting stuff in there. But let's go over to Philadelphia, where Carson Wentz, they say, needs a week before he'll be able to get on the field. So you will not be seeing Wentz again this week. Alshon Jeffrey, there was rumors yesterday that he might start the season on the PUP list. Peterson was a little disgruntled when he heard that and said it's not true. Nelson Aguilar is also banged up. He was asked today if he felt he would be at risk of missing week 1, and he laughed at the reporter. So with all those injuries and all those things, Steve, who took Mac Hollins in the Scott Fishbowl. By the way, Mac Hollins, a guy I loved in Dynasty last year. I was scooping him up all over the place. Puts down Mac Hollins, SZN, which we know means what, Steve?
Mac Hollins season, baby.
Season, baby. So, and then I come across this today from Ruben Frank from Rube NBCS. And someone asked him, Max Hollins would start in his place, correct? And this was talking about Alshon Jeffrey. And this guy's response was, he has to make the team before he can start. And then there was another quote that said, Mac Hollins is having an underwhelming camp. So Mac Hollins is evidently in danger of not making the roster, Steve. So,
and then also in danger of lighting the league on fire.
It's amazing what happens in season, right? So,
I mean, he's got opportunity. I've also heard reports that he has been a huge red zone threat for that team. Yeah, he's got the opportunity. I've got Mac Hollins versus Corey Coleman against you guys all year. and I'm going to ride that thing to death as long as I can.
You're definitely gonna lose that because I think we made that bet when Corey Coleman was still on Cleveland, right?
We did.
Yeah, so you're gonna lose that bet because he's gonna be the number 2 wide receiver most likely in that offense, and he's pissed. We're gonna find out just how pissed a little bit later on Hard Knocks, but. Here's another guy who year after year, everybody just, if anybody is still high on this guy, you're just high. Devontae Parker broke his middle right finger today, and he's going to miss time. He's going to miss time, according to the coach, the Gase. And if this doesn't just tell you to avoid this guy this year, I don't know what else will. Steve, I'm going to ask you.
Yes.
Rank for me just the Dolphins wide receivers, how you would prefer to have them on your team for 2018.
I think it would be Kenny Stills, number 1, Albert Wilson, and Devontae Parker.
No Amendola, huh?
Oh, I forgot about him. I forgot about Amendola. He would be in front of Devontae Parker. I tried last year. I tried to get on the Devontae Parker bandwagon. At least the Dolphins training staff and coaches tried to get us on that wagon as well. This year, they're not trying at all. They've given up. They've just said, it's not going to be him. It's not going to be Devontae Parker. Yesterday, it was just report after report of him just getting absolutely owned in practice. And then this morning, he's got a broken finger. He's not going to be playing anymore. Sometimes you just got to cut bait, and Devontae Parker is one of those guys. He's not followed through. This is what is fourth year, I believe. Yeah, I'm done with Devontae Parker. I'll take all the other wide receivers on that team ahead of him. I won't have him on any teams I'm drafting this year.
So, and Stills, I believe, I think a lot of people agree with you about Stills. I did a live mock draft last night with the Dynasty Warzone podcast. It was a redraft mock, believe it or not. Even though it's a Dynasty podcast, but it's redraft season, and that'll air on Friday, by the way. So check that out, Dynasty Warzone with my friend Randy. Randy, if you remember him, Steve was with us for the twice for the podathon. He's got that big old down south thing going on over there. You know what I'm saying? So
I remember.
Kenny Stills, the guys in there felt Kenny Stills was the number 1 wide receiver in Miami this year, and I think I have Amendola still ahead of Wilson myself, and that's how I would rank them. Our friend David Oliveris just tweeted, "I'm really happy Devontae Parker is letting us down now rather than later." How coincidental that you put that out there. That's fantastic.
Kenny Stills is being drafted about 20 spots behind Devontae Parker. Kenny Stills is the best wide receiver on their team. He's going as wide receiver 46 in the 13th round of a 12-team draft. Or 11th round of a 12-team, 13th round of a 10-team, I'm sorry. But that's value. That is value. And right behind him, Allen Hurns, who is also going to be a top wide receiver on his team. But that is some wide receiver value that you can definitely target towards the back end of your draft. I don't understand why he's going slow. He's been so good. You've been on Kenny Stills for a few years now.
Yeah, I loved him as soon as he left the Saints. I mean, he was great with the Saints, but as soon as he got to Miami, I grabbed him in dynasties a few years ago, and I happily stashed him away. So, just speaking of tweets that just came out, Mark in Michigan wrote, and I say this gingerly because you know how much we love Matthew Berry, and our origination of the Falafel House comes from the Fantasy Life app. He wrote, "Somehow ESPN has managed to fill 27 hours of a fantasy marathon with quite a few people who either don't really play fantasy football or in some cases don't even like fantasy football." Which in response, Mark Hill said, "The SFB Podathon with @FF Funhouse last month was 10 times better, to be honest." So I only want to bring that up because that was us and we did that, and and it was great. But I have a feeling that even Matthew, who I know will never hear this and is not watching this because he's on TV, I think that he even cringes at some of the stuff that they make him do on ESPN sometimes. But he's got to sell to the general public. He said it so many times. His target audience is 10-team, standard, basic, work league type people, and that's what ESPN is mostly fluff, you know. So, but kudos to Mark for saying that to us. Good dude, and we always appreciate when people talk about us. So that's great.
And also ESPN, if you're listening, we are more than available to come help out with the the ESPN Fantasy Football Marathon next year, give you a few pointers, help out, be on TV quite a bit. We can do that.
Yeah, I mean, the show bounces back and forth from ESPN, ESPN2. We're willing to be on the Ocho. We don't even care.
That's right. I'll be on ESPN Plus. I don't mind.
ESPN3, which you can only get on the app.
That's right.
We don't mind.
Nope.
We have nothing. We have nothing in life. Please.
Yeah. Agreed.
One last thing from Miami. When discussing the running backs, we saw earlier in the week that Tannehill screamed at Balaj to get off the field because he missed a block. I happen to think that Balaj, at the value you could get him at, has been good value, but people are worried about Frank Gore in that offense this year, stealing away the possibility of Kenyon Drake having a legit RB1 type of season. He finished up the year good. But coming from Adam Gase himself, he has a clearer understanding that we're counting on him. Speaking of Kenyon Drake, I love his emotion and his passion. He's a really good player, but we need him on the field. So, I mean, I think that Gase is giving him his vote of confidence that he's the guy he wants to be the man. Steve, do you fear Frank Gore? Do you have to fear Frank Gore because he's like, Pet Cemetery? He just keeps coming back every year.
Yeah, you absolutely have to. You can't take that for granted. He is indestructible, it seems like. He is always there. And, just looking at how both of these running backs run and what their strengths are, how can you not imagine that Frank Gore would steal some, if not, more work, but goal line work? All the touches that he would get close to the goal line, I would think that would go to Frank Gore over Kenyon Drake. And then they did spend a draft pick to get Balaj in there. Now, I don't think that necessarily Balaj is a threat to Kenyon Drake right now, but Kenyon Drake has also shown a propensity to get hurt from time to time. He's not the biggest guy. And so I think that the best you can hope for in this backfield is kind of like what we saw from Carolina last year with Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Stewart, a breakdown of where Kenyon Drake might get a little more, a few more carries, which they're planning on giving Christian McCaffrey this year anyway. But Frank Gore is definitely going to have a role in that offense, and he takes advantage of the role that he's given. We've seen him do it his entire career. So you absolutely have to take Frank Gore into account if you're going to take the chance on Kenyon Drake.
Well, speaking of, Seth Gordon says I have blue face better than Sal's face. Okay, thank you, Seth. Just got into the chat for the first time. Thank you guys who are tuning in. Pablo Reyes is with us. Speaking of Christian McCaffrey and his snap count and his touches, coming away from week 1, there were 14 snaps that Cam Newton was on the field for, so we will call that first team snaps. And Christian McCaffrey played in all 14 of those snaps. He got 4 carries, he got 2 targets, and he got a goal line carry for a touchdown, Steve. C.J. Anderson was playing in the fourth quarter. Do you know that? Do you realize he was on the field in the fourth quarter? I think it's clear-cut that they are going to go heavy with McCaffrey, and they're going to see if he can handle it. So that's exciting for you, me, and Kevin, because we all took him in the Scott Fish Bowl. And specifically for you, because Tiny Dancer, as you anointed him last year.
That's right.
I believe he's probably one of your favorite players in the NFL. Am I wrong when I say that?
No, he's definitely fun to watch. And what you hope that Carolina will do is that, everyone says so much like, oh, they can't handle this workload. They can't handle this workload. He hasn't shown he can't handle that workload yet. I know his last year in Stanford, he did have a few injuries that kept him out. But the year before that, they basically ran that guy into the ground, and he was able to sustain an entire year of doing that. So I think that Carolina is right to try and up his workload and see how much he can handle. C.J. Anderson, if Christian McCaffrey were to get injured, is definitely a viable running back that could step in, not do everything that Christian McCaffrey could do, but he is a viable running back. He could be a great complement to Cam Newton. But I also think that Carolina's offense could be more dynamic, could keep defenses on their toes a little bit more if they kept McCaffrey in and defenses weren't able to lock in on what they were going to do while he was on the field. So I love that they are going to give him more time. I think people have to pay attention to that. They have to see that he was on the field for the entire time that Cam Newton was on the field. He got a 2-yard goal line carry, something that you wouldn't necessarily think that he is going to get. And yeah, this has got to boost his value a little bit, and everyone that has him already has got to be very happy about that.
So here's another backfield. We haven't spoken about the Ravens backfield much because I think everybody just figured Kenneth Dixon's hurt again. Kenneth Dixon can't stay healthy or clean. He's not a threat to Alex Collins. This is Alex Collins. Lock him in, RB1, And I love Alex Collins, and I got him in some places very cheap last year. He'll be one of my 3 keepers in the Falafel main 16-team league. Ravens, Joe Flacco was on the field for 12 snaps, and whether you like Joe Flacco or not, those are the first-team snaps. Alex Collins got 6 of those snaps. Do you know who got 5, Kevin? Hi, Kevin.
Who? How dare you? How dare you?
Do you know who got 5, Stephen?
Wow. You went from a Kevin to a Steven. Call me by my full name. I feel like my mother's on the podcast. Was it Buck Allen?
It was Javoris Buck Allen was on the field for 5 of those first-team snaps. And I believe he was on for all 3 third downs. And I think that people are kind of sleeping on Buck Allen a little bit, especially in full PPR leagues. Any PPR, but a full PPR league. This is a guy you got to bump him up. Alex Collins he's a bruising running back. He's not a pass-catching running back. And I think that there's a great value late in a deeper league. You're not going to be drafting him in a 10. He's probably something you consider in a 12. But, you branch out into those bigger leagues that we have all started to play in, those 14 and 16s. Javoris Allen is a guy who could bring back tremendous value. I have him in pigs too. And I'll hope that he can give me something. But what's your feelings on Buck?
On Buck, I do believe last year, I don't have the stat right in front of me, but I think I saw it earlier today or yesterday on Twitter, that he was actually a pretty integral part of the offense towards the end of last year for Baltimore. So I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's got a little bit of a role there. And so, yeah, I think that as a late round flyer, he is somebody that you could definitely take a chance on, and that seems to have more of a role. You don't look at Alex Collins as more of a passing down back. He's a bruiser, like you said. Also, not a fan of Alex Collins. I just got Madden 19 over the weekend. He busted a 96-yard run against me. That cost me some points. I was not very happy about that. Yeah, 96 yards from Alex Collins. Come on. I don't even believe that. You got to up your game, Madden. Don't believe it.
Listen to me. Did you see the touchdown run that was called back by Marshawn Lynch? Did you see him turn on the Jets?
Yes, I did.
Go up the sideline?
Why don't you talk about that a little bit, huh?
If old man Lynch can still do that, then I believe Alex Collins can do it. Listen, I'm back on Lynch this year. I'm excited. I think that I think he does have something to prove. Maybe since he's old, it works for him being in John Gruden's old ass system. But that was actually an impressive run. Forget about if it was called back for a hold or whatever. When it was him and a defender, a defensive back who should be smaller and quicker than him, he left him in the dust. It was actually quite impressive. So I think Marshawn Lynch is an extreme value right now. He went higher than I thought in the mock draft last night. But again, I was drafting with all guys who do podcasts. These are all fantasy football guys in the know. And so I think guys went in places you wouldn't expect them in your typical home leagues or where you play with some other guys who are not as invested time-wise as some of us are. But I'm going to be looking to grab him at his ADP because I think he's super, super valuable.
Yeah, right now he's going, on as RB30, and I'm sure just based off of that run alone, he's probably jumped up 5 spots, I would guess. So, yeah, he's somebody that you can get a huge value on if you're getting a guy that in the 6th round right now, that's going to be the starting running back on their team. In an older offense, like you've mentioned, that would probably be a little more run heavy if they can be. If the game script allows them to be, they'd probably like to run the ball more often than not. Absolutely. Why would you not get a guy like that? I'm supportive of your theory, Sal.
Last running back before we move on, and I only bring this up because Steve, again, he had to get a little funny with the agenda tonight. He puts down Saquon Barkley is hurt. Saquon Barkley has a little tinge in a hamstring. He will not play this week. They will absolutely hold him out because it just makes sense. And we'll see how much he plays going forward. I think that they were happy with what they saw in the first week game. And
how could you not be?
Saquon Barkley still locked and loaded as my number 5 overall pick this year in fantasy. I do have him ahead of Antonio Brown by the way, in my redraft rankings for this year, which don't even exist on paper. They just exist in my head.
Which is the best because then you can change them without telling anybody.
Yeah, they change. But people ask me questions. They change. They're very fluid.
Yeah, I just put that on there because, it scared a lot of people when it came out that he was leaving practice. He's got this hamstring injury. But if you saw him, his very first run ever touching a football on an NFL field in a preseason game, he broke out a 39-yard run. You saw exactly why the Giants took that chance of drafting him second overall. He is an electric player. As long as he stays healthy, I don't see any reason why he'd end the season less than RB5 this year. I am fully supportive of that, Sal.
Well, glad to have you on board, sir.
Hey, what can I say? I'm a hefty weight to throw behind your support.
Yes, you pack a load. Before we move on to wide receivers, I will discuss only one tight end. Traditionally on this show, I've been the big tight end supporter. I like to throw my support right behind those tight ends. And I usually like to latch on to one guy per season, correct?
Yeah.
You can't see my face, but if you could see Steve's, that was fantastic. So here's my guy this year. And I've talked about him a little bit before. But this is the guy who's going to finish higher than others are saying. And I think it's David Njoku. And I think because a few weeks ago, all the weapons that were in Cleveland, they're not really there anymore. Josh Gordon has not gotten into practice. And if he does not get in by this week, they say they don't think he'll be ready to start the season. Corey Coleman is now a Buffalo Bill. Antonio Callaway has drug and guns and all kinds of things going on. Let's see if that gets cleared up. We hope
potentially.
It does. The kid looks fantastic. They punished him by making him play football. I didn't understand that.
That's another Hugh Jackson. Just
so
why?
The door opens wide now for David Njoku. He had 2 touchdown receptions in the first game. One from Tyrod, by the way. We've always said wrong for us. Tyrod Taylor, and one from Baker Mayfield. So he's proven that he can play with both guys, right? It's one game, but he's also looked fantastic in practice. He's making one-handed catches. We've talked about how super athletic he is. So I'm going to make this statement right now on the Fantasy Football Funhouse podcast. David Njoku will finish higher in the final season standings than Evan Ingram.
Wow.
So all you guys, second-year tight ends who are out there drafted Evan Ingram.
Write that one down.
They drafted him, some people, as a number 4 overall tight end this year, number 5. David Njoku, when all the dust settles this year, will be a higher or have better overall fantasy point total than Evan Ingram.
That's quite the claim there. I definitely can see a progression for Njoku. We're big fans of him last year. I definitely liked him, but knowing the quarterback, issues in Cleveland and his rawness coming out, everyone that didn't think that he was ready to be a full-time prototypical tight end, which that's not what is asked of these tight ends all the time anymore. So he's definitely got the athleticism, like you said. I also agree that Evan Ingram is due for a bit of a regression based on not only other prominent offensive players coming back on their team, but you don't necessarily see tight end totals stay that high from year to year consistently, but he definitely has a chance to. I can see that happening. I wrote it down just so I can rub it in your face, just in case it doesn't. But yeah, I like it. Njoku's going as tight end 15 right now. So if you want to take on a chance on that, as opposed to getting Evan Ingram as a tight end 4, I believe is what he's going as right now, or 5, somewhere way up there. Yeah, you could definitely help your team out quite a bit there. I like the call.
I don't like to take tight ends that high, right? So why would I take a tight end? I mean, the 3 guys that are at the top are legit. If you take them, you're going to be happy with what you get. Gronkowski, Kelsey, Ertz, right? You're going to be happy with that. But for me, I don't like to invest that high in a tight end. So why would I, at the number 4 tight end, take a guy who's done it for 1 year in an offense that was void of all its other weapons? So I'm in New York. I hear nothing but great things about Evan Ingram every day. They talk about how great he is and what he's doing. But, yeah, I'm throwing it out there. I'm just taking it and throwing it out there, Steve.
Hey, I like it. Although I will say right now on 4-4, Ingram is not going as high as I thought he was. He's going as tight end 6. I thought he was,
slipping.
which is still pretty high. But yeah, that is definitely, he's slipping more into the range of where I actually would feel comfortable taking him, because he's also one of those tight ends. He is a tight end that is shouldn't be asked to block for the majority of his downs. And as long as the Giants realize that and use him accordingly, I mean, he could potentially end up repeating some of those numbers that he had last year. So the more that he starts to drop, the more I dislike your call, Sal.
Well, write it down, punk. Anyway,
right,
let's move on to a couple of wide receivers talk about here before we wrap this up. This will be the possibly give Kevin some credit portion of the show. And
now we can skip this.
Steve wrote down, because funny man Steve wrote, John Brown is going to break our hearts again. I have heard nothing aside from glowing reports about John Brown, that he has looked fantastic. He looks quick. He's making big plays. I mean, this is a guy who, that's what he was. He was big plays in Arizona, right? Nothing consistent, but big plays. If he could get any kind of consistency, it could be a really huge year. He could be the number one guy there. I realize Crabtree's there. Crabtree's not getting any younger, but he also left being the leading touchdown scorer for 2 years in a row in Oakland. So you're expecting him to be the guy there for those short, intermittent, and red zone type passes. But John Brown's the guy who could get deep. So Steve, why do you think that he's going to break our hearts again?
Because every time we seem to hear that he's doing so well, something seems to happen. Injuries, what have you. So, things seem to happen. He's not able to stay on the field.
He's a sickle cell guy, right?
He is a sickle cell guy, which I'm not necessarily holding that against him. He's also had an issue with soft tissue injuries, soft tissue issues. That's right. Throwback. And, he's somebody that once that offense gets down towards the red zone, Baltimore is notorious for loving their tight ends, which Hayden Hurst, shout out to him. I'm all over Hayden Hurst this year.
What up, Steve?
Thank you. And Crabtree, he is also going to be their main wide receiver red zone threat. So those are two guys that are going to take down some production from him. They also like to run the ball a lot when game script allows them to do that with Alex Collins. So I think that John Brown right now is a bigger best ball. What's the word I'm looking for? I lost it.
Let it go.
I value him more in best ball than I would in redraft. In redraft, I think he's going to break your heart sometimes, but if you got him playing on those weeks where he catches, 5 passes for 95 yards and a touchdown, you're going to be good to go. And then he's going to have games where he catches 3 balls for 30 yards. I think he's going to be too up and down. I would definitely rely more on a Michael Crabtree or on their tight end for week-to-week production, but he is also a guy that when he's been healthy, he's been able to be a wide receiver that can do all types of things. So I don't know. It's hard. He's not going to cost you anything for a dart throw, but he's not going to be a guy that I'm going to be able to rely on. I definitely would rely more on the tight end and Michael Crabtree for touchdown production from that team.
The word you were looking for was asset, Steve. Asset.
Sure. I think that would have worked. It's synonymous.
So I'm going to put this one out there for you. You're going to have to make a choice between these two wide receivers, because here's another Kevin wide receiver, Tyler Lockett.
Yep.
Who, listen,
hello, guy.
The time is ripe for Tyler Lockett. He's healthy. I talk about glowing reports of being absolutely lightning fast in practice and blowing past DBs and catching touchdowns. If you had to make a pick between John Brown and Tyler Lockett, that's it. You've screwed up. You're now facing the Kevin decision of picking one of these two guys as your wide receiver 4. Who are you taking, Tyler Lockett or John Brown?
I think I'm going to take John Brown, and the reason is because you use the word ripe, which for some reason reminded me of the stupidest
tweet. I noticed
tweet.
You lift up your arm and you were rubbing your armpit when you said that.
No, that was the back. It was a back itch. It was behind the armpit. But you said ripe, which reminds me of a tweet that I've seen recently on Twitter, which has cracked me up about a banana and about the times through the day of a banana saying, nope, I'm not ripe yet. I'm not ripe yet. I'm not ripe. And then at 3 a.m., the banana says, I'm ripe. It whispers, I'm ripe. And then at 8 a.m., it says, I'm brown, yo. You got to deal with it. I'm brown. And that is Tyler Lockett. He's getting closer and closer and closer to being ready. And then he's ready for the one time and he doesn't tell you. So he's on your bench. And then as soon as you think that he's ready, he's done. He's over with. So that is Tyler Lockett. He is the banana. He is a banana to me. And you will never know when he's ready until it's too late. So I will go with John Brown.
You've heard it here on the Fantasy Football Funhouse, folks. Tyler Lockett is an overripened banana with brown spots.
That's right.
Which, by the way, is when the banana is at its most sugary and tastiest.
That's when you turn it into nut bread.
Now, you peel that right off and you just eat it as it is.
No.
Don't be afraid of those brown spots. Do not be afraid. They're so... I'm going to go brown me up some bananas in a minute.
Gross.
Des,
what you do at your own time is you keep that off the podcast.
You have Des Bryant written down here. We've talked about the Browns enough. We'll see what happens with Des Bryant.
I only wrote that down because that bugged me so much. It came out weeks before Hard Knocks was on and before they played their first preseason game that they were interested in him, that they were trying to reach out to him. He was not returning calls or blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, Hard Knocks airs. Jarvis Landry gets all this attention for his amazing speeches. And then they play their first game. And then all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, Des wants to be a Brown. It's like no one wanted to be a Brown before then. Not one person. And now that's like all this stuff happens, they're getting a little publicity, they're getting a little exposure, everyone's on the Browns, and all of a sudden now Des wants to be one. I would not return one of his phone calls if I was John Dorsey. But
rumor is Des wants to be a brown banana.
Hey, he's already there. He's already there. He is past ripe.
You have Marquise Goodwin down. Marquise Goodwin is Jimmy Garoppolo's favorite target. What's great about that is that I think Marquise Goodwin is probably in for a good season, but it allows the value for the guy who's going to probably see the most targets, and that's Pierre Garçon, to drop. So me personally, I've been that Garçon guy. I think Goodwin's going to be just fine and have a good season, but be more of a big play guy, which is great. If that big play results in a touchdown, then fantastic. But if you're looking for a PPR guy who I think is still going to be the better of the two, it's Pierre Garçon. I
think they can both be viable. I don't see any reason why they won't be. I don't think that San Francisco's defense is so stellar where, San Francisco, they won't have to throw the ball towards the end of the game. I think that there will be enough volume to go around for both of these guys. I think Kittle is still in there in the picture, but after those guys, I think that those are the top three target getters on the team. Target getters. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a thing now.
Sure. It's trending on Twitter already.
What can I say? I'm a trendsetter. But I don't see any reason why all three of those guys couldn't produce in this offense.
Okay, well, we are really just up against the hour. I want to let people go and enjoy their nights. Steve, close it out talking about victory fridges.
Victory fridges. The Cleveland Browns, they know how to play to their base, which is evidently alcoholics like me, which I would enjoy to be a part of. They have selected 10 bars in Cleveland that are full of Bud Light, and they are called victory fridges. They are locked up right now, but as soon as the Cleveland Browns win their first regular season game, those fridges will unlock, and all the beer inside is free to everybody at the bar until the fridge is empty, of course. I cannot think of a greater marketing ploy than that. And I don't understand why they don't just do that in every single bar throughout America for every single team's first regular season win. It is an amazing idea. Free beer is the biggest marketing ploy in the history of America. And you will always sell out your bars, and you will always get a return on that investment. So I don't understand why people don't just give free beer out all the time.
There are going to be hundreds of thousands of alcoholics who have never watched football a day in their life who are going to be rooting for the Cleveland Browns.
Exactly.
This year for that free beer. Hey,
it's a win-win.
Put in the kid Baker Mayfield.
But it's only one. It's only for the first win of the season. It's not like a year-long thing. Every time they win, the fridge unlocks and there's beer in there again. It's for the first win.
They better have the cameras rolling. I cannot wait to see the people fighting and killing themselves to get to those refrigerators.
And that's the funny thing, is that it's all full of Bud Light. And so it's like what are they all killing themselves for? I don't get it. So,
Steve, wrap it up.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Kevinless Fantasy Football Funhouse. We hope that Kevin has not succumbed to his vertigo and he's able to join us later this week for our second episode. Remember, we are back 2 times a week. You can find us on Twitter at FF Funhouse. You can find us on Facebook. You can like our page there. You could also like our YouTube page. You can subscribe so you are able to know when we are going live. We might be doing a few more live shows per week every year that are only available on YouTube. So yeah, just like us everywhere you can, the Fantasy Football Funhouse, and don't miss out on any of the fun throughout the season.
Special subscriber only YouTube podcast, Steve?
You heard it here first, Sal.
If you could see me, you would see my little girlish face.
Whoa, you look so blue and emotionless.
It's cold here, Steve. Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. I'm proud of you, Steve, because my money is on me for being the person who says Falafel House instead of Fantasy Football Fun House first. But so far, through 3 episodes, Kevin was on 1, so his odds were a little bit better. None of us have slipped up and said that, but Falafel House will always be in our hearts. But thank you for joining us on the Fantasy Football Fun House. As Kevin would always say here at the back end of the show, make charity a part of your fantasy football playing. Take a league donation. This is the perfect time of year, guys. You're having your live drafts, your old school family drafts. You're in person. You're going to be with friends. You're going to be with longtime league mates. This is the time of year to say to someone or to say to everyone, let's take at least one entry fee and donate it to a charity, whether it be fantasycares.net, where Scott does tremendous and amazing work, or just anywhere else, the place that J.J. Watt does things. There's guys all around the NFL who do amazing things. Feel good about playing fantasy, and if you have it and you can afford to give it, do it. Do it now, and we will catch you in 2 days.
Hurry, hurry, step this way. What 2 nickels, 1 dime, a 10th part of $1. We've got the show if you've got the dime. It's just starting.
Fantasy Football Fun House, Football Fun House, Football Fun House.